you have a practice or are you running a business? Valuation is the ultimate KPI.
Hey there, welcome to the Modern Financial Advisor Podcast, brought to you by Truelytics, the premier transition management and business optimization platform for the wealth management and insurance industries. My name is Mike Langford, and I'm the host of the Modern Financial Advisor Podcast. And this week I'm flying solo for the first time in a long time, but I'm kind of excited to be rolling solo Myco, if you will, here. The reason why I'm excited is I had one of those, that's interesting moments just the other day as I was flipping through Flipboard, which is kind of where I organize all the news that I bring into my life across a variety of channels and a variety of topics. It's an app for your phone and for your iPad if you're unaware, and you can access it on the web as well. But you can set up all these tiles and kind of curate the different news areas that you're interested in. And of course, I have one for financial advisors and the broader financial services community and wealth management and so forth. And I kind of, just flip through, see if there's anything that's interesting or I think potentially informative, or in this case, I think transformative. But also sometimes that information is something that, if kind of packaged in the right way and shared with you, can actually help you grow your business and be more effective in the things that you're trying to do. And I'm always on the lookout for that type of stuff. So this story that I came across on CNBC kind of highlighted one of the results from a recent survey conducted by CNBC and Acorns. And Acorns is kind of an automated savings app for people. If you're not familiar with it, check it out, acorns.com, I believe, or Acorns in the App Store. And what was really interesting about the article is it led with the headline that said 99% of Americans are not using a financial advisor. And that really took me back. Kind of had to lean back in the seat when I saw that stat. And I'm like, really? Are you sure? 99%? Wow. So anyway, before we dive into the kind of the depth of my thoughts and kind of the strategies that I have to recommend to you to take advantage of this information, I want to encourage you to make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done so already. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you like to get your podcast jam on. So make sure you give us a like on the platform, a little comment or recommendation, and make sure you share it with a friend, right? Colleague or friend. Let them know you listen to the podcast. Give us a share on social. We're Truelytics everywhere. So make sure you let the world know about it and let us know you like it. Also, feel free to send in your suggestions for topics on the show. If you have an wow, that's interesting article you've recently read that you'd like to discuss, or somebody you'd like to see on the show, send that into mike@truelytics.com or podcast@truelytics.com. We have the new email there. We'll make sure that gets to me, and I'll make sure that it gets responded to in kind, and ideally, hopefully, your topic or your person that you'd like to see on the show gets on the show. So now that that's over with, let's dive in a little deeper. So like I said, the survey revealed, and by the way, it was a significant survey, right? They surveyed over 2,000 people, which is a very statistically significant sample of a broad swath of American adults of a variety of age ranges and wealth backgrounds and so forth, to arrive at this 99% of Americans are not using a financial advisor stat. And I was like, it just really felt wrong to me, to be honest with you. But when you stop and think about it, it's one of those ones where like, yeah, it's probably right, actually, right? I mean, it's kind of like when you find out that only about 30% of Americans have college degrees. And you're like, nah, come on. There's no way that only 30% of Americans have a college degree. That just doesn't make sense. And then you're like, well, wait a minute. Everybody I know went to college, but I went to college. Just about everyone I know went to college. And by the way, I went to grad school. So a lot of the people I know also went to grad school. So you're kind of I'm in my little bubble here. But then when I go about the day and I see people, that mow lawns for a living and do a variety of other jobs that don't require college degrees, I start to recognize that no, not everybody went to college. It's not like 80% of Americans have college degrees type of concept. So this number of only 1%, kind of by definition, only 1% of Americans are using a financial advisor is really like, wow. Just wow, right? And what it meant to me was basically everyone you meet as you move about the world on your daily basis, wherever you are in America, just about everyone you come across needs your help. Because we know that 99% of them do not have a financial advisor. That's astounding, right? It's just astounding when you think about it. And it kind of begs the question, like, why don't we just train financial advisors to like, listen, I know it's going to seem odd and it's going to be very uncomfortable at first, but everyone you meet, make sure you work into the conversation that you are a financial advisor, and then ask them if they have a financial advisor that they're working with. And in this case, you might want to work in the fact that I read this article that 99% of people aren't working with a financial advisor, and I still struggle to believe it. I found it kind of astounding. Be interesting to see if you just did that for a couple of months, how many clients you'd end up getting just because you brought the topic up with everyone you met. Anyway, so whether you believe the survey is accurate or not, that kind of doesn't matter, right? I mean, whether you believe it's 1% of Americans have financial advisors or 20%, the reality is the vast majority of people don't. So one of the things that I have always found challenging for advisors and the broader wealth management industry is that there's so much focus on attracting clients who are already wealthy. Frankly, the proverbial 1%, right? Most advisors are hunting for high net worth, ultra high net worth, and the mass affluent. So the 1%ers and the, top 5%ers of our economy, they're looking for those people to bring them into their business. And, it makes sense, right? But the problem is, if somebody is already wealthy, it's probably fairly likely that they already have a financial advisor, which means your marketing is a little more difficult and your sales process is a little more difficult because you're now in the position of trying to pry a client away from another firm. You're trying to get them to look at their situation and go, yeah, I know this advisor has helped get me where I am today. I need to move, right? It's not always easy. Takes a lot more energy to pry somebody away than it is to win somebody who doesn't have an existing. There's less friction. And as you know from this podcast, I'm all about reducing friction. So now, be that as it may, I'm challenged by the fact that we're all chasing these high net worth and ultra high net worth people. It's understandable that advisors focus on clients with a lot of assets because we look at our business model, and for most firms, it's based on AUM, right? So some sort of fee to manage assets is the prevailing business model. And so most of us, right, you included, I would suspect, would like to deal with high net worth clients because it allows you to have a smaller and more manageable client roster and make a lot of money in doing that. But when reading that 99% of Americans aren't working with an advisor, it does beg the question, are you leaving a ton of money on the table for your business? Right? Isn't there a way to make a lot of money by, going after some of these 99%ers? So, one thing that we know for sure, and we discussed this last week, right, in the podcast with Justin Paterno, the Chief Operating Officer from StockTwits and the newly launched trade app brokerage platform. One thing we know for sure is that our business is evolving rapidly. Like, it's really quick, right? We are now at $0 for commissions, as Justin and I talked about at length in the podcast. And that really means, look, if your firm is trying to charge $7.95 per trade, a client's going to bring that up hey, Fidelity's 0, Robinhood 0, Trade App is 0, everybody is 0. Why would I pay a commission? And we see it in the asset management side as well. Fees have been dropping, right? Expense ratios have been dropping for years and years and years, especially as a lot of people are moving towards index funds, right? Passive investment vehicles. And Fidelity, as another example, they have a few index funds that are zero, like zero expense ratio. How do you compete with zero, right? And so we know that fees are continuing to go down. I've written about it in the past over on the StockTwits blog, Truelytics blog. I wrote about pricing compression and some of the things you can do about it, and I'll cover those briefly here. But it means that you're probably going to have to expand your service offerings and find other ways to serve more clients more efficiently and at a lower price. That's just the reality. But the good thing is technology is leading the way to support your ability to cast a wider net, right? And serve the 99% out there versus only trying to focus on that top 1%. So it's not like your job is about to get extremely hard because, oh crap, now I got to go get a whole bunch of smaller clients to succeed who want to pay a lower fee. It's like, no. You can serve more clients, get a little less selective about the assets that they bring with them, and you can serve them more efficiently, right? It's like less effort, but with more clients, and each client maybe having smaller dollars. You can serve them more efficiently because of technology. So in the accompanying article with the survey results, it kind of backs this up. It mentions that, look, many people aren't even fully aware of the breadth of services that advisors provide. Most of them think that advisors are only there to manage investments. And if a person in that 99% that aren't using an advisor thinks to themselves and like, hey, I don't have a lot of money to manage yet, but I do have some financial challenges, and all they're doing is trying to figure it out themselves or relying on friends and family to give them the answers, they're in a bad spot, right? Because they do need a financial advisor to give them good, solid, trusted guidance. They could use you for things like getting solid advice for basic financial planning. They could use your help on managing debt, right? What to pay down first, how to refinance, right? How to ever see a bright future if they've got a ton of student loan debt, right? Making the right choices on their employer-sponsored retirement plan. Like I always make a point of talking to advisors about this, that your sales cycle is often long because many of the people you meet, if you're only based on AUM, many of the people you meet, they're not in the market to be your client right now because they don't have any assets to manage for you because most of their wealth outside of their home and is tied up in an employer-sponsored plan, their 401k. Well, if all their money's there and you can't manage it, does it mean you shouldn't take them on as a client and advise on it for when the day comes when they do make a job change or they're laid off, right? Or they retire? You've been there with them and you're available to manage those assets, right? So we do want to make sure that we're casting a little bit of a wider net in terms of the services we provide, but also the people that we're willing to bring into the firm as clients. Many advisors, maybe you included, offer insurance, right? Why only rely on AUM as an offering? Why not offer insurance offerings? Because we can charge a fee for those things. And there's a commission-based insurance, So serving people in the areas that has another benefit as well. Not only do we get the fee for service up front, which is great, we also create a solid pipeline for new assets to manage. I mean, again, with the 401k client potentially, right? If I do a financial plan for them or maybe I help them with some debt consulting, right? How do they pay off their student loan debts? Well, at some point in time, they might change jobs and they might want to move their assets with me, right? Or as they're growing and they're out of debt and they're accumulating assets, who do you think they're going to come to, right? Now, maybe they're already a client. Maybe you set up a small account for them and allow them to contribute little bits of money over time, knowing that they'll eventually grow. But it's much easier to grow with clients as they accumulate wealth than try to pull them away from another advisor after they've already created their wealth someplace else, right? Does that make sense? So this approach also creates a much higher lifetime value of customers for most of the cases, right, or many cases at least, I mean, think about it. If you're going after clients before they've started to accumulate their wealth, chances are you're coming after them when they're a little bit younger. And you're getting them in the fold. You're getting their financial house in order, if you will, with them. You're making sure that they're on the right path, and you're sticking with them along the way. Well, if you're bringing them on when they're around 30s, in their early 30s, chances are you're going to have these people, until they're in their late 70s or beyond, right? That's a long lifetime. And then think about what that does to the valuation of your business. If I'm thinking about buying your business, either as a younger advisor taking it over through succession or an external advisor buying your book, if I look at your business and you have a lot of clients that have been with you for years and have many, many years in the future, because I'm buying that future cash flow, you're much more desirable to me than if I'm buying your business. And yeah, you've got a lot of AUM, but most of these clients are older and they're going to be starting to consume their assets and going into net redemption of their accounts. It's a much more attractive situation if you've got a balanced client roster, but ideally one that we're going to grow with for a while. So how do you go about attracting clients who don't yet have an advisor? Right? It seems easy given that basically everyone out there fits in this category. And I kind of, like I said, I would love to see somebody implement hi, my name is Mike and I'm a financial advisor. Nice to meet you. Do you have a financial advisor? Because I've heard that 99% of the people don't have a financial advisor. I'd love to see somebody take that approach. But there's a couple of things that I like to recommend, and they really revolve around one thing to do, right? And it's that choose a niche, or maybe two, but focus on a customer type. Too often, when I meet advisors or when I go into an advisory firm, I hear we serve high net worth individuals, as that's what they do. We help people with their wealth. We help wealthy families. We work, with business owners. Well, that's a really wide net, right? You need to get a little more specific, because marketing and sales work best when the prospect and the client can see that you understand them and you know them, right? You know their life, you know their business, you know their situation. And that's a much easier way to go about finding the 99% people that fit into your framework, right? Than trying to target them based on the amount of money they have. So, for instance, I always like to tell people to start with looking at their university, where they're alum from, because chances are you already have a connection with those folks. You guys both experienced something, the same thing, even if you went there at different years. So for instance, I went to Boston University. I now live in Austin, Texas. I can go on LinkedIn and do a search for Boston University alums who live in Austin, Texas, or live in Texas more broadly, and I can find thousands of people living in Texas who went to BU. Fantastic. Now I can just start reaching out to those people. That's a really easy focus niche. And I can kind of talk about, hey, living in Texas as a BU alum. I can talk about, Terrier sports. I can talk about a whole bunch of things that they're going to get that others don't get. And then there's a built-in affinity. So test that out as a niche if you're kind of struggling for one. The other place I like to start, and I think this really helps, is looking at industries that suit you. And I always recommend start with two areas. One, your prior industry, if you have one. So for many advisors, their first job out of college was not becoming a financial advisor. If that happens to be true for you, if you did get a job as a financial advisor straight out of college, skip to the next one. But for most advisors, becoming a financial advisor was the second career, right? Even if they worked in another business for like 5 years or so. So look to other businesses that you know from your own experience. So for instance, if you worked in construction before, it makes sense to kind of target folks who are in the construction space because you know their business. You've walked a mile in their shoes and you can talk the talk, and you're going to be easily, uniquely credible in their eyes compared to other advisors. If you introduce yourself as, hey, I'm Mike, financial advisor. We specialize in working with people in the construction industry. Oh yeah, I used to work in the industry. Instantly, doors open. You guys are buddies, right? They're trusting you in a way that they wouldn't trust another advisor. The second area that I would recommend is look at your best clients. So again, if you don't want to focus on an industry you worked in before because you don't think it's attractive, look at your client roster. Find your best clients, the ones you're like, hey man, if I had 100 more clients just like Joe over here and his wife, Sue, oh, life would be great. Let's do it. What makes Joe and Sue special besides how much money they have with you? How did Joe make his money? How does Sue make her money? What careers are they in, right? Model it, right? So as an example, here in Austin, Texas, Dell Computers is a huge employer. There's lots of Dellionaires around, but there's also lots of people who work for Dell who make six figures, right? They've been there for a while. Maybe you want to build your entire client roster off of serving people who worked at Dell or are alums at working at Dell. Couple of things you know about the Dell experience, you know about their 401k plan and deferred comp offerings, you know about their health insurance offerings, you know a lot about the financial structure of a Dell employee. And then you can know a lot about an ex-Dell employee, right? The Dell alums, if you will. So focus on your best clients and see if there's some commonality there and explore it, right? See if you can make that your niche. And by the way, if you already have a client who's a Dell employee, as an example, you can tell them, I'm going to start serving people who are Dell employees, people who look like you, Joe. Would you help me find other people who look like you? Like, who do you work with that I should talk to, type of thing? Like, you could actually start building a referral network in that niche. It gets a lot easier. So you can go deeper by doing some research within the segments as well. Obviously, like for instance, construction. Some parts of construction, there's a much higher likelihood that somebody's going to have a high income than other segments of construction, right? So an example, a custom home builder or a kitchen specialist who designs those really nice kitchens and installs them, they're probably going to be making a lot more money than the average guy who's just swinging a hammer as a day laborer, of course, right? Or maybe a subcontractor who comes in and it does whatever needs doing, right? So you want to look at your niche and find out, okay, what are the pockets in here? Get to know the space really, really well. Another important consideration, and we kind of hinted at this earlier in the episode, is targeting a younger segment within your niche, right? Try to go after clients who are somewhat younger to grow. A couple of reasons why, right? So number one, the clients will grow over time and you won't have to worry about their accounts going into debt redemption, as I said. So you're going to have them growing with you. Number two, based on what I know, like younger clients are less maintenance heavy, right? Because look, they don't have a lot of money, but they want to make sure they have somebody to call. They want to make sure that they have somebody to talk to. They want to make sure somebody's got them on a financial plan, is helping them manage their debt, all those types of things. But they're also much more receptive to simple digital check-ins, right? So they're not going to require the quarterly sit-down meeting in your office. In fact, they may hate it, right? So working with a younger clientele, you're going to be able to do things like, hey, listen, you want to do a quick little video conference or a quick little chat here, go over some things, or I'm going to send you your report over, your quarterly report. I got a couple of things I want to highlight. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Do you want to do it live or do you want me to record it for you? Like, wow, nice and easy, right? So they're going to be much more receptive to those types of things. Number three, younger clients are also likely to change jobs a few times as their careers mature. So rollover, right? You're likely going to see them rolling over assets a few different times as they grow in their career, right? So that means more assets for you to manage versus somebody who's more mature in their career. If you're bringing them on, they might be like, hey, listen, I'm not changing jobs again until I retire. Well, now all that 401k money is kind of locked up, right? So looking at younger clients can actually create a little momentum of money faster for you. You'll also likely to be there for like major life changes as well, right? So think about if you bring on a young client, you may be with them when they get married and kind of double the size of the account by their spouse joining you. When they have children, they start thinking about college planning. Unfortunately, there's some negatives too, but you might be there for those, right? Divorce, deaths in the family, right? Older parents who start to need assisted living and so forth. You can be there to advise on those types of things. So there's a lot of life experience and life events that you'll be there for if you're coming in earlier on in that client's life. Lastly, as a bonus, getting clients early in their financial lives means there's less history of bad decisions to undo, right? So, you don't have to undo somebody else's mess. I always talk about that. Like when you come into a new client, like if that client's been around the block with another financial advisor or been doing it themselves for like 20 years, right? There's a lot of, oh my goodness, I have to, go in there and clean a whole bunch of stuff up. So it's always more desirable to get somebody who's a little fresh, if you will, even though they may have less assets to manage at the beginning. So that's kind of my general thoughts on what the story means. I mean, or what the study means, excuse me. It really is hopefully an inspiration to consider looking at the world of prospects differently. It's not a finite universe as you may think it is. There's a lot more out there for you. Does it mean that you need to abandon a pursuit of high net worth clients? Of course not, right? It simply means there's a ton of opportunity that's being completely overlooked by many of your competitors. And if you approach things correctly, you can build a big business targeting this 99%. The one thing you're going to really want to do is make sure you focus on your efficiencies, right? Make sure you develop techniques that make it easy for you to attract and communicate and convert people into clients, right? So go back a couple episodes in which I had Shanna Tingham on the show, and we talked about how she's using a digital input form, if you will, on her website to kind of qualify clients and have them book a meeting with her. And they convert at an extremely high rate because people are getting comfortable using digital to do that, but also it allows her to avoid wasting time. So she's becoming really efficient. They've already submitted a whole bunch of really relevant financial information to her. They've qualified themselves before they ever walk in the door. So she's not wasting time having meetings with people that are going to be a bust, right? And by the way, once these people have already filled out that form, they're already kind of made their mind up. Like they've already gone through the sales process themselves. They've already kind of pre-sold themselves by filling out this information and booking a meeting with her. So embracing technology has allowed her to greatly accelerate the growth of her business. And I think it'll do the same for you. So, and again, taking a look at her business, she's also focused on, some niches there with women in certain areas. So, and family matters. So really, really interesting stuff. I was, like I said, just taken aback and like inspired by the article. I was like, let's talk about this. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this show. I know we kind of went a little long, but if you have questions, feel free to send them in. You can always reach me at mike@truelytics.com or send in something to podcast@truelytics.com if you have a suggestion for the show, whether it be a topic or an individual you'd like to see on the show. And please do like and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, you name it, Spotify, Google Play. Always love to have you subscribe and to give us a like and a share on the socials, okay? Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time on the Modern Financial Advisor Podcast. Have a good one. Bye.